What's up, YouTube? Mr. Llama SC here, and today we are going to be talking a little bit about Project Diablo 2, the mod. So, I'm going to have a series of videos here that I'll release. This is going to have every character video we'll go ahead and make. We'll talk about the characters, we'll talk about the builds. I haven't tried every single thing for every single character, but I have seen a lot of characters. I've seen some of the strengths. I'm currently rank 1 Amazon on the ladder, rank like 5 overall, only behind the rest of my team and one other guy. So we're all just pushing hard. But I figured I would make some videos to kind of talk about Project Diablo 2, what it's like, what the differences are, what we're seeing, all of this stuff. Obviously, I talked about skill changes and things beforehand, but that was pre-testing, everything like that. And I want to talk a little bit now, after we've kind of gone into it and really seen played through the game and whatnot. So the first thing that I want to talk about, and let me just grab this Zon right here. I'm just going to go on players 1. The first thing I want to talk about just in general with the game is the overall increased difficulty of the game. And that's actually one of my favorite things about it, is that the game actually is just more difficult. Now, this character is decently stacked, so she's going to still mow down stuff okay. But overall, they have increased the difficulty a lot from vanilla. And they've done this through damage nerfing mostly. And then they have added some additional content to the end. They've added what's called maps. They've added, well, they're going to be adding dungeons. And so they've done that. But they have nerfed a lot of builds and the damage they deal, and it feels like they've increased boss monsters HP, like Bale and stuff is a lot harder to kill. They've increased probably other monster HP as well, it seems. So there's really a lot of increased difficulty that they have added to the game here, and I think it actually makes it really fun. And one of the things that makes it really fun, first off, it's just fun being, having a harder game in general. But beyond that, one of the things that's super fun about the game is that they've increased the importance of utility classes, right? So before, when we get 8 of us together, all we're doing is, hey, we have 8 people, let's just get 8 DPS, right? And we just like murder everything. You get a couple Hammerdens, you get a couple fire swords, a cold swords, everything is just like high damage, and then everything dies. And they've actually changed that a lot here. So they've made it so you sit there and you go, let's not just do that. Instead, let's bring in a paladin who has heals, because paladins can now heal better with their holy bolt, right? And their holy nova. So like a healing paladin's really useful. A curse necro is really useful. Having characters that their entire build is built around support is actually really important, right? And a wonderful change. That was magnificent to see. Love to see dolls. So it's actually like a really magnificent thing to see with the game. And I don't need the character anymore. No, we'll go run get our body. And it's something that I really do think is fun, right? Because it makes you sit there and think about your group dynamic a lot more. Once again, you're saying, what do we actually need right now? We want salvation. We want to have all of these, instead of everybody just kind of like, damage, right? You damage, you blow it all up, you're fine, is sort of how it goes in vanilla once you get to endgame. So we're level 90. I'm level 94. My whole team is like 93 to 95 right now. And, and we're seeing just like tons and tons of this right here, where it's just like, man, you can just absolutely have a full damage team and just be in trouble. And so having all of this stuff is really fun, and it makes other content like doing the maps and stuff even more fun, because the more optimized you are overall as a group with that, the more fun that you kind of end up having, I would say. So it's been super fun pushing the ladder, having the group, trying different stuff out, and trying to really push the ladder overall. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and talk a little bit. Experience is not easier to get in this game. The only thing I would say is maps have some a little bit of easier experience, a tiny bit, but they're pretty tough. So having those is you're back there is something. So it does make solo harder for sure. And so let's talk a little bit about some of the quality of life pieces of this mod and stuff that we see. So first off, just by looking right here, you can see that you have a larger stash. You don't have a shared stash, unfortunately. You can do pluggy. I think people got pluggy to work with it in normal or in single player. But for online, you do have a larger stash, which I do find to be pretty helpful. It makes it so you still mule, but you're muling a lot less. You can still have a lot of your stuff. All of your runes can be, there, and your gems up there. Your items. You can have a lot of things in here. So it's very, very, very nice. The second thing to go with it is you can see that there is these right here where they have these little T's on them. And if you played Media in XL, you should know what this means. This is stackable. So you can actually stack runes and stack rubies. So if I had, let's say, 50 jaw runes, I could put all 50 of those jaw runes in one single stack, right? And that just makes it so much easier. So that way you can actually have, LL tier, all of those, and you can have all of your runes in like 1 or 2 lines instead of, oh boy, I have an entire mule dedicated to just my high runes, and they're spread all over. They're spread all over the place, and it's like, you just have like random orts and random, just all sorts of stuff in there. Here, one sec. Let me switch characters. So, that's definitely one of the like main things that we see with all of that. Actually, want to go to this character. Is just you have the ability. See if I have like some stacked runes. Oh yeah, we can stack right there. Boom. So now I have like 3 Eth runes, right? All stacked up. And you can also, of course, have it so they aren't stacked. But if you do want to make them stacked, just put in the cube. Do that, and now flawless rubies can be stacked on top of each other. So it's really cool. It's a very interesting system. I think it's a good take from Media in XL, and definitely improves the kind of whole stashing experience, everything like that. Additionally, they took the idea from POD, which probably also from another mod, of having the charm-only inventory down below. So once again, charms only work when they're down in these bottom 4 slots. And so it's a great balance compared to regular Diablo, where you can't forgo charms really. And so you just say, I don't have any space, right? Like I can't have space in my inventory because I need the space, but I need the charms, but I need the space. And so it's this whole thing. So now you get your inventory, you get your charms. Like I say, this is a fabulous quality of life thing that they just stole over, and it works really well. So that's something that I really like right there. Something else that is fabulous, and I don't have the shard. It's on the 90 character, I think. Something else that they introduced and took from Pod, Median, both, whatever, is that same Val Orb style. So this is, cubes are 4x4 as well. So this is a PoE, right? It all goes back to PoE, honestly. The Val Orb, right? So you can find these lying around. You can put it with an item, and you can slam it, right? So basically you get a chance to brick the item and turn it into a random rare. You have a chance to add sockets to the item. You have a chance to add like a sweet mod to the item, right? Whatever it is, you can do this with all sorts of your items. And so it's really cool because this is the sort of stuff that I think is very important for why they nerfed damage in this mod. And I'm actually going to bring up paint because you guys know I'm a paint daddy and I love me some painting. And I'm going to kind of paint the difference right here of difference between vanilla and PD2. This is vanilla D2. And this is PD2. Okay. And we'll just do like this and this. And this will just be our x-axis will be like difficulty. Diff. And our y-axis will be time. I honestly should have done them on the same. You know, let's do better. Let's be better. PD2. And then let's do red for vanilla. There we go. Now we can just be better about all of this. Cool. So this will be difficulty right here. And this will be over time. Be best. That's right. So basically, I would say it goes something like this. In vanilla, the difficulty of the game is definitely increasing as you're going through. And then you kind of it kind of goes more like that, right? So this is like normal, this is like nightmare. Obviously you have your like little peak for Duriel or whatever, right? This is like hell, sort of, right? End of that. But then once you get past hell, your damage just starts to really like get pretty good. And then the difficulty of the game starts to really go down again as you're just getting stronger and stronger and stronger, right? Yeah, you gotta have the Duriel peak. Okay. With PD2, what they've done is, I would say it's actually easier in normal because you get splash damage and things like that. Then it starts to kind of come over here and pick up, and I think it actually kind of crosses a little bit. I think it's actually harder. But then I think it goes more like that. Right? And then you have your peak for Blood Raven right there. Because Blood Raven's disgusting. So I feel like it's a little bit more like this for the game. Blood Raven's disgusting in this game. She's so hard. Her zombies are ridiculous. And so first off, Nightmare, this is normal. This is Nightmare. And this is Hell. It's like kind of end of normal, right? It's like Bale, normal, Bale, Nightmare, Bale, Hell is kind of what I'm saying. So this is your Hell portion. That's your Nightmare portion. That's your normal portion. So really what I'm finding in the game is that like it is easier to start, but Nightmares gets tough actually in PD2. It starts to really get tough in Nightmare, and Hell is also very difficult. You could actually say that Nightmare is probably harder, to be honest. This is probably more accurate. Because I think it is harder than Vanilla's Nightmare. And so you find that, but additionally with this, the biggest thing is that the difficulty of the game doesn't just really drop like, oh, I've got a couple, good items here, and now I just kind of murder everything and the difficulty really drops off, right? Instead, because there's this damage nerf, the game like continues to be like very difficult, right? It probably goes more like that, but like the game continues to be difficult through that point. It's still very hard to farm. It's still very tough to do like Ubers. It's still tough to do maps. All of these things are very tough because of the fact that your damage is nerfed. And it's not until you start getting like plus 15 to 20 skills that you really start to see yourself kind of coming over the hill with it. Where I would say in Diablo 2 Vanilla, if you just have like some decent gear and you're like a high enough level, you can start really smashing the content pretty well. So they said they tried to balance around this number. You need about 15 additional skills than vanilla to get the same sort of damage. And you can definitely feel it. And so, like I said, because of that, you also see synergies of heroes and people you're playing with becoming more important. What do I know about being over the hill? I'm 30. I know everything about being over the hill. So I think that that's what's making this game really fun, the ladder really fun, everything like that, is we're just seeing that difficulty continue through, and we get some of that extra endgame content, and there's going to be more of that stuff. And like I said before, this is also where it allows for things like these shards to come into play, but not be completely game breaking. Because if you take a vanilla item and you slam a shard on it and you get a good roll on that item, think about how much like you're going to murder the content. You already murdered the content. Now you're going to like destroy the content. Whereas in this one, you slam it and you're still like, okay, it gives you a little more, but you need so much more to really get to that point. And so it allows for you to have that range of items and best in slot items to continue to grow without like any kind of one just breaking the game completely. Right? So yeah, like a 3-skiller 2-open socket Shaco in vanilla is like disgusting, right? A 4-socket Wind Force in vanilla is disgusting. Whereas in here, it's good. It gives you a little extra boost, but it's not there, right? So I think that's something that's really cool about it as well. Let me think if there's any other big quality of life stuff. They have maps and they have map crafting. I think there's still work to be done on that. You can buy these things right here and use them to craft your maps to make them harder, increase quantity, increase experience. They're decent right now. They got it to an okay spot as of today, but it's still, I think there's still more work to be done with maps. Mercenaries also have been buffed. So they've changed around a lot of like what mercenaries have, what auras, things like that. But you also get more slots for your mercenaries. You can put like full IK on an Act 5 mercenary and stuff. So they can be a little baller, which is nice. So you can stack them up with boots and gloves and things like that. They changed some mercenary locations. Deckard Cain is now up here next to Mala, so you don't have to do that crazy running or whatever. But once again, even with all of these changes, because your overall power is down and the monster HP and everything is up, you're still not stronger than vanilla. So I think they did a fabulous job with that, and that's why I keep reiterating it. I think that's one of the best changes. You get stronger and stronger, and there's more room to grow, but you're not overpowered crazy early by anything because they just nerfed a lot of stuff. So it's very, very cool that they've done all of that stuff. Is this mod impossible in single player? I don't think so, but I think it'll take a little bit longer to probably go through it all. So where do they move Pharah? We don't need, this is my least favorite change. Pharah and Lysander got swapped. Worst change. 4 ohms are 200 ED. 50 ED on each of them. So yeah, Infinity's still worth. They also changed things like Infinity and I mean they changed a ton of items, and we might do a whole video on going through the item changes. But they changed a bunch of the items. But in terms of breaking resistances, they changed it where it's not 20%. I forget what it is exactly, but like before, anything trying to break a resistance was at 20%, and now it's at a higher percentage to break that resistance. So basically, breaking resistances is easier now. Whereas before in D2 Vanilla, there's some resistances that are just like impossible to break. You just like can't do it. So, anyways, yeah. So we can go into character specifics now. Or I guess before I do that, I'll talk about the downsides that I've come across. There's still a lot of build balancing and figuring out to be done. I don't know if that's a huge downside. It's just like something to be seen and played around with. But there's definitely still some builds that just feel really bad, even though they've tried to make them a thing. But that'll just take a lot of playing. So we'll figure that out, right? Additionally, the biggest downside of this mod is that the servers have been struggling. And there's been a lot of downtime on the servers. And this comes mostly from stuff that wasn't going to be tested during closed beta, and that is malicious intent. So when they get someone like me on closed beta, I'm not going to try and DDoS. I'm not going to try and dupe. I'm not going to try and do all of these things. And unfortunately, it's not until you really open the game up to a lot of people that you start to see all of that stuff happening. And so that's really where we've been seeing issues that's just stuff that you got to deal with. And so it's kind of like an open beta season 1 a little bit, as people are figuring out ways to dupe. People are figuring out ways to DDoS, streamers and whatever stuff. And they've figured out a lot of that, and they're constantly working and fighting against them. But it is causing some server downtime, and it is annoying. But it's a free mod on top of the game, so it is what it is. Other than that, it's a lot of fun. One of the things I really love is the trade scene. Their trade site definitely needs some work, but they do have a trade site. And let me capture it here. They do have a trade site right there. And so you can just see, you just search for, what do I want? Oh, I'm looking for charms, and blah, blah, blah. This might be down. Oh, no, it's up. I'm looking, I have a light skiller for a Mal, whatever it is. Or you can search for, a specific item overall. I'm looking for, Cranium Basher. See if anybody has them. There you go. Cranium Basher. And so, you can see. And so it's not an amazing site for it, but it is good enough. It does allow you to do your trading and stuff. And they have banned JSP and any real money trading, anything like that. So, I think that improves the scene as well, and it makes it more fun. One of the things that I've never been a fan of with JSP is when I had a lot of forum gold on JSP, everything just became boring because I was just like, I could just like buy everything I want really quickly. Like new ladder starts, I could just buy it all. Whereas here, you're forced to go in and trade and do all of that trading, and I just love it. I just think it's super fun. So I've always been a big trade advocate in games, and so the more you see that, the better. So anyways, with that being said, we will jump into some character specifics, and I'll have videos for each of those characters. Peace, YouTube.